Well, good evening. How's everybody doing? Okay. Sure, somebody got something. Okay, you got something to do. Okay. So Mama here keeping straight, so Daddy Law's got to be here. Well.
Yes.
Welcome. Thank y'all for being here, and thanks for our guests from the Health Department and EMT to be here with us to share with us about the drug issue in our area. And it is present, very present, unfortunately. So we'll mention a few prayer concerns to you. Some of y'all may have heard Richard Walker is in the hospital. Talking to Melissa today, they think he may have had a stroke. He's at Catawba. I'm going to go see him once I leave here. Also at Catawba is Abby Byers. Some of y'all may have heard, try to keep it a little hush-hush, but she had a baby. Yeah, she had a baby Monday night. Cohen James.
Yes.
Right, Debbie? Okay, Cohen James. So 4 pounds, 9 ounces. He's a little fella. So they're staying a little bit at the hospital, but she's hoping to come home with him soon. Okay? So pray for Abby. I'm trying to think of others. There's something else I was going to mention, and I forgot. Belinda Jaco, who is Sandra Hawkins' quartet mate. She had some cataract surgery this week. Pray for her. She was mentioned. Of course, pray for Debbie Hollingsworth. I was down at the ministry this week, and they're making it without her, but they're really worried about it. I'm sure there's other prayer concerns as well. Michael Arias is home, by the way. Michael's at home now. Okay. And anyway, well, let's pray, and then give those folks time to get in here. Let's pray, and I'll turn it over to our presenters, and I'll run upstairs and run the slides. So if I mess up on the slides, roast preacher for supper, okay? Okay. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this evening. Lord, we pray for this community. We know that spiritually, in many ways, this community is broken and hurting. And we know in many ways, physically, this community is broken. We know that addiction and whatever forces are behind that, forces of evil, mental health issues, whatever's behind it, Lord, they've got a grip on us. Lord, I pray that in some way this program tonight will give us a little bit of education, a little bit of insight of what we can do as members of this community to make a difference. Well, I know as Christian folks of faith, we need to pray, and pray fervently for our neighbors, those down the road, and those on the other side of the county, and those beyond who are impacted. Thank you so much, O Lord. In your name we pray. Amen. So ladies, gentlemen, whoever's going to come up, I do have a microphone, pulpit mic, this mic, and that mic.
Thank everybody for inviting us to present this presentation at your church. We are doing whatever we can to bring issues to substance use within our county so that everybody is aware. We are heavily in the school system right now, and we are very grateful that you guys are taking the time out of your day to come and listen to what we have to say about substance use in Alexander County. So with me, my name is Nari Chapman. I'm the preparedness coordinator and work in epidemiology at the Alexander County Health Department. With me, I have Katie Graves. She is our health educator at Alexander County Health Department. And we also have Shannon Childers. He is our port post-overdose response team and community paramedic with EMS. So on the agenda really quick, we are going to go over some background. What is substance use disorder? Some statistics that are localized to Alexander County. Why this issue is important. Drugs on the rise. Protecting yourself and your child, recognizing an overdose, vaping, and then we have some local resources to share with you all. So a little bit of background, our Substance Use Disorder Coalition formed as a subcommittee off of our Healthy Alexandrians. Every 4 years we do a community health assessment through the health department that is given to the community, and we want your feedback as to what priorities you think that we need to focus on within our county. So the top priority since 2014 in this county has been substance use. It has been a top concern over and over since 2014. Substance use disorder, it is a treatable mental health disorder, and it affects a person's brain and behavior. It leads to their inability to control their use of substances like legal and illegal drugs, alcohol, and or medications. And I'm going to turn it over to Shannon for opioid statistics.
So one of the things that we started doing when we started to try to outline where we are in regards to Alexander County and the opioid epidemic is we started to kind of categorize numbers. We started looking at our call volume in regards to Alexander County EMS. We started looking at Alexander County Sheriff's Office in regards to arrests. And what ultimately we discovered is we are trending upwards in regards to our opioid epidemic problem. In January 2021 to December 2021, we had a total of 88 overdoses. Now this spans across every type of addiction or problem somebody may have. It could be anywhere between alcohol, it could be methadone, it could be prescription drugs, and of course it could also be fentanyl. So we had a total of 88 overdoses in 2021. In 22, it increased up to 94. In the mid-summer of 2023, we predicted that we would probably escalate that even more to around 120 overdoses. And as you can see, we went above and beyond that with 152, almost double in the past 2 years in regards to the overdoses that occurred. 141 of those were adults and 11 under the age of 18, which included a total of 14 deaths. Now that was actually doubled compared to the numbers from previous years. So far this year, we're very thankful, but we are very hesitant because we understand that anything can change in the next little bit. So far, since January of 2012 to now, we have a total of 12 overdoses that have occurred. What does that look like in comparison to the years prior? Well, that tells us that we're actually 53% decrease in the past several years. So what does that mean? Well, ultimately that means that it could be that our program, our PORT program, our SUDS coalition has worked together to kind of limit the idea and to teach this program throughout our county and help people understand the dangers of purchasing what they believe is a drug that they think they know well of, but unfortunately it ends up being fentanyl, and it causes them to have really bad side effects, and including death. And it could be the fact that these numbers are kind of sporadic. As the year goes on, as the year continues to go on, we may be able to find out specifically what these numbers are looking like, how the program is working. But so far, it has, and we are very thankful. One thing that we're going to continue to do this year is we're going to continue to talk to our sheriff's office. We're working alongside the DSS because although 152 overdoses is bad, that's what we know of. The scary thing is what we don't know. And this is in regards to people who are actively using, but they're safe or they try to be safe. But unfortunately, as we'll learn here in just a minute as we talk about the drug fentanyl, there's no way to be safe with it at all. Narcan statistics. Narcan is a medication that we use. It is our frontline drug for opioid abuse and opioid overdoses. It is what we call an opioid antagonist. Real quickly, what we understand in regards to fentanyl is that it attacks one thing when it's used. It attacks the sensors in your brain. Those sensors that are continuing to fire constantly to give you breath, to give you a good heart rate, to have a good mental status. All those things are working so that you have life. It attacks those specifically. And when it attacks those, it decreases our lung capacity, it decreases our breathing rate, it decreases our heart rate, and eventually it leads to death. So we give Narcan because it is an opioid antagonist. It cleans that slate of that receptor and allows that person to recover. In 2021, our success rate was 100%. In 2022, it was 98%, and in 2023, it was 93%. And you may ask yourself, well, that seems like a little bit of a decline. Well, unfortunately, it is. And here's why that is so scary and so dangerous. The opioids that we are currently seeing that are being bought on the street is 100% fentanyl, meaning that we're having to give a whole lot more Narcan, originally based back in 2021, where we would only have to give 2 milligrams. Now we're seeing that we're having to give anywhere between 8, even up to 20 milligrams of Narcan per patient just to resuscitate them. So there is a lot of ideas and numbers that we're pulling based on these statistics that are allowing us to see the danger of this drug and how scary it can actually be. This map here is a map of Alexander County. As you can see, this is based on the numbers in 2023, and it's not just one specific area. It's all across our county. The yellow dots are significant of those who have overdosed, and if you can't really see from this far off, but if you look closely, there are a lot of dots that are on top of each other, and this is significant because it tells us that these are areas that have a whole lot more overdoses occur and occurring in the same spot. And unfortunately, the red dots you see are the deaths that occurred in 2023.
I will also add that in some of these dots there are numbers. I know one dot has a number 5, one dot has a number 2, and that is the number of calls to that specific place for an overdose. So we're getting multiple calls to this same place for overdoses, and so we put that on there instead of putting dots on top of dots. We did 5, 4, 3, whatever that may be, and so if you look very, very closely, there are numbers in those, and we are getting continuous calls to this same location.
This right here is a graph that we pulled together in regards to the actual substances that were used in 2023. This is, like I said, based on pretty much the gamut of drugs such as benzodiazepines, acetaminophen, hydrocodone, cannabis, meth, marijuana. 3 of the top drugs that were used and substances that were used in 2023 were, number 1 was unknown substances. These were medications that we were unable to actually clearly identify from the patient, from the investigation of what it was that this person had overdosed on. Number 2 was fentanyl, and number 3 was unknown opioids, which is the same significance. Fentanyl is stronger. It's actually 10 times stronger than another opioid, morphine. And so those were the top 3. The real unfortunate thing that we are seeing a trend in 2024 is fentanyl is actually increasing. That's actually the number 1 drug that is substance use that's being used today, and it's currently staying about 51% of the overdoses that we see right now on the streets.
As Shannon just pointed out, when you buy drugs off the street, you don't know what you're getting. So as we saw in that previous slide, the majority of overdoses in our county are coming from unknown pills. And then, of course, after that, we've got fentanyl. So fentanyl is something you don't know. If it's in your drugs, it's tasteless, it's odorless. And there's some other drugs we're going to talk about in a moment, too, that are very similar and have similar effects as well. And some of these drugs that are now coming into our county, Narcan doesn't touch them. You can go back. So like I said, when you buy drugs off the street, you don't know what they are. Now, even scarier than this is that you can overdose on your own prescription drugs as well, or someone else's. So this image right here shows some common prescription drugs, and then to the right of it, some of the drugs that are manufactured on the street. So, as I said before, when you have a drug prescribed to you, there are many factors that a doctor will put into making that prescription for you. So your height and your weight, and then a few variations of your vitals, those are what go into your prescription. So if someone is taking your prescription, it's not designed for them. So it's not going to have the same makeup, and it's not going to be as effective for them, and it may make them overdose. The same thing with your own medications. When your doctor prescribes your medication, you need to take it exactly as prescribed during those times when prescribed. Otherwise, you can have an overdose yourself. more so if you have drugs and you're buying drugs off of the street, they may look exactly like prescription drugs and they may be entirely chemically different. So the very top one, I believe, is an oxycodone. The middle one, I think, is a Xanax, and the bottom one is an Adderall, and then the counterfeit piece is next to it. This is an image I actually display at the high school when I go about once or twice a semester and I speak to the high school students. I do a program called Risky Behaviors, and I talk about some drug prevention and vaping prevention mainly. This one really tends to hit home because a lot of the students I speak to have younger siblings. So who here has someone that they know, niece, nephew, grandchild, child, that's 12 or under? Raise your hands. A couple of us. Okay, so this is especially important for y'all because this image, I don't know if you can see it super clearly, but it displays some of the common prescription drugs you can get over the counter, like ibuprofen, Tylenol, and then next to it, a candy that looks exactly identical to that prescription drug. Now this is so important because if you do have someone in your home that's 12 or younger, they may mistake a prescription drug for a candy and take it. Unbeknownst to them, it can cause an overdose or death. So it's super important that if you do have any kind of prescription drugs in your home, that you lock them up in a medication box, and we give those out for free, or you make sure that they're put up in a safe place. So back to fentanyl a little bit. The image in the very bottom right, that shows a lethal dosage heroin, and then next to it, a lethal dosage of fentanyl. It takes so very little fentanyl. And you can see in the top image, it's about 2 grains of sand worth of fentanyl that can kill you. And I actually brought a pencil for reference. The very tip of this pencil, that's how much fentanyl it would take to kill the average man. So Shannon's kind of talked about this a good little bit, but it's here, it's in our county. Most of our overdoses in 2024 have been from fentanyl. There is so much fentanyl in our country. In 2022, the DEA seized about 59 million laced pills. And that's enough to kill about 387 million people. Now, I put on there how many people we have in our U.S. population. So that's more than enough fentanyl pills seized in just 1 year to kill the entire U.S. population and then some. Now this number, it went up in 2023. I wrote that down. In 2023, the number of pills that were fentanyl-laced that were seized was 77 million. So that ratio is even higher. So there's so much of this drug in our country, and it's in our county.
A lot of people ask a lot. One of the main questions is, well, what is fentanyl? Fentanyl is actually a drug that's used in the hospitals. We use it in EMS in regards to pain. The difference is this medication is formulated to work just directly and not as effectively as this synthetic opioid that's being sold on the streets. This is a street-made drug that's used, and it's used to do one thing, to get somebody high. The unfortunate thing, as Mallory and Caitlin have already discussed, is that there's no way to tell how much you can take. There's absolutely no way. When I come in contact with individuals who have overdosed on fentanyl, I always ask, well, how much did you take? And they respond with, well, it's just a little. And I'm like, no. I want you to tell me how much you took. And they sometimes use words like, well, I took a bump. What is a bump? They go, well, I can't tell you. I said, exactly. Because you don't even know how much you're taking. This right here is the equivalent of playing Russian roulette every time someone uses this drug. They have no idea how much they're going to take, and that one time that they take it could eventually kill them.
So xylazine, this is common. It's very common in veterinary medicine, and it is a powerful sedative that is a horse tranquilizer. And it is being found in the drug supply in Caldwell County. So we know that it is not long, or it could be here already. I'm not sure what Shannon's seeing in the field right now, but more than 1 in 4 drugs samples in North Carolina were positive for xylazine. So this flyer was sent to us by the state, and just to get the word out there, and we have pushed this because, once again, you don't know what it's in, you don't know what they put it in, and if you have it, and if it's in what you just purchased from your dealer on the street. And Narcan does not work against xylazine, so if they're going to give you that, it's not going to bring your heart rate up, it's not going to do anything against xylazine. Nitazines?
Nitazine is it's actually a new drug that we are starting to see as close to us as Lincolnton. And if it's in Lincolnton, then it's most likely here. Nitazine was developed 60 years ago as an alternative to morphine. It was never approved, and so it was kind of discarded, and now it's being used on the street, and it can be considered as 43 times stronger than fentanyl. 43 times stronger than fentanyl. And so that drug is in the area, and we're thankful that it hasn't necessarily hit here yet, but if it's that close, it's not going to take that much longer for it to be here. And this is, again, the worry that we are seeing and we have in regards to our community and trying to keep it safe. It does have same type of effects such as euphoria, relaxation, drowsiness, clumsiness. It is used for pain relief by some. It has helped to reduce stress and itchiness, nausea and vomiting, fever, sweating. It has long-term effects such as dependence, and then of course it has damage to vital organs such as lungs, brain, and the heart.
And I'm going to add that these effects can vary person to person based on their weight, their size, health, if a person's used to taking that medication or not, if drugs were taken at the same time. So if they've taken their anxiety medication and then they've taken a nitazine, that's going to affect how it works in their body. And then the amount taken, the strength of the drug can also vary batch to batch, and that's very important when they're making fentanyl, when they're making nitazine, when they're making any of this stuff on the street. Each batch is going to be different, and none of it's ever going to be the same, so there really is no way for anybody to tell exactly how much of this drug is mixed in with the other drug.
This next drug that is something that is actually being sold in gas stations. It's actually got a term called gas station heroin. The thing that bothers me the most about this drug is it is being advertised as something to help with anxiety and depression. I want you to understand how dangerous this is, because currently in our world that we live in, anxiety and depression is one of the #1 mental diseases that we have. The unfortunate thing is with this Neptune's Fix, it's also been known to cause seizures, loss of consciousness, and death. And it's being sold, there's no age limit. There's no FDA that's going to say, hey, look, this is for certain people. So it's very similar to, say, if you were to go in there and look for a 5-hour energy drink and take it, because it looks exactly the same, and it's been seen as close to us as Hickory, North Carolina.
I know there may be some people in this room who are kind of thinking, well, this doesn't really apply to me. I don't use drugs and I don't ever intend to. But it's important to know that drugs don't discriminate and addiction doesn't discriminate. And neither do overdoses. People can, like I said earlier, they can overdose on their own medications. Now, I can almost guarantee that every person in this room probably knows one other person that either struggles with addiction or has had an overdose. So it's so important for you to know all this information and to know what you can do if you do see these kinds of signs in your children, your friends, your family members. So more specifically, if it's for you and your child, we're going to talk about the signs of potential drug use, how to look through their phones, especially if you're not used to using technology. We have some social media apps that are probably where children are going to be looking to purchase drugs from, and how you can monitor that. Knowing what you can do to help, and then making sure that you don't touch anything. If you're looking through your child's room or your grandchild's room, making sure you're not touching items if you do think there is some suspicious activity going on, because fentanyl, it can cause an overdose just through touch. So some of those signs of drug use in teens, of course, course, borrowing money. If they're asking you for money all the time, they're saying, oh, it's for food, it's for gas. You know how much they should be spending or should not be spending, so that's kind of a red flag right there. If they're having changes in their friends, if they're losing friendships, or they suddenly have new friends that you don't really recognize or seem a little bit suspicious themselves. Of course, if they're skipping school or if they're dropping classes, their grades are probably going to drop because their mental function is not where it should be. And then they're going to have dramatic changes in their moods because they're struggling with addiction. And not only they're struggling with their addiction and their drug use, but they're also still trying to cope with whatever underlying mental health issues they were having. And then they might experience some weight gain or weight loss. And the most important thing to note is, it's your child or your grandchild or your friend, your sister, your neighbor. You're going to know them, so you're going to know if they're acting differently. So if you think something is suspicious or awry, it probably is, and it can't hurt to just ask and check in on them. So this is more specific to children and grandchildren. We do have a lot of individuals in this county where the grandparent are the primary caregivers for children. So I thought this would be really good information for y'all to see. So if you are their guardian, more than likely you're the one paying for their phone. So you have every right in the world to look through their phones to make sure that they're okay and monitor their activity. So you can go to their Google or their Safari and make sure you're looking at their search history. They might be looking, where to buy drugs. Sometimes kids can be very, very obvious in their activities. Check their deliveries, and that's not just through their messages or text messages, it's also to their door. If you're getting boxes that are unmarked to your home, that might be a sign. So if your child's rushing out to go grab that box, maybe ask, hey, what'd you order? Can't hurt. Check in their social media, and we'll get to that slide in just a minute, but there's a bunch of different apps they can use, a whole lot of new ones. I'm pretty freshly graduated, and I don't even recognize some of these, so we had to do some research for y'all to help figure out what kind of apps that kids are using now. And then, of course, their pay apps. Those are the most important ones. And then, before you ever even look through their phones, make sure that you're having open communication with them. As long as you're having a good open communication and relationship with them, they're more than likely going to open up to you and talk about their mental health and what they're struggling with so that they don't turn towards drugs. So these are the pay apps that we were talking about. The first one is Zelle. This is probably the most common one. Then Venmo. And if you're looking through their Venmo app, sometimes what they're showing you might be private. So some exchanges on Venmo are completely public. But if you're still not sure, you can log into the Venmo app through their phone and look at their own messages to other people, because they may have a little gas emoji or a little green leaf emoji, and those are things that might indicate, that's some suspicious behavior. Also, if they're sending $200 for shoes, I don't think they should be spending $200 on shoes. So those are important things to look out for. Similar with Cash App and PayPal.
Another thing to be aware of in those cash apps, those apps are specifically used for transferring money from one person to another. Those cards are accepted anywhere in the county. So if you have an unknown reason why they had went to a bank and pulled cash out of those cards, it's something that you need to ask about. And like Caitlin just said, clear communication is always key. One of the big things is you always want to make sure it's not about what we want from them, it's about what we want for them. And we want them to have a healthy life, a long life that's not going to be hindered by these substances.
So these are some of the apps that they might be communicating and not specifically sending money through. The top one is Instagram, the next one is Twitter, or X now, and then I believe that's Twitch. And then we have GroupMe, WhatsApp, the BeReal app. The next one is Facebook Messenger, Snapchat, Twitter, and Facebook. So these are just ones that if you see them on a phone, maybe take a peek through them and look at some messages and just see if there's any activity going on.
And I will add that some kids will do a private Snapchat story. And if you're a parent and you have their Snapchat and you think, oh, I see everything that they're doing, that's not the case. They can pick who sees their Snapchat story, and they can do private stories that you are not aware of and that you would not be on. And there are a lot of, you can private message on there as well, and those can disappear within 24 hours depending on how they have their settings. So it's like those messages were never there. When you swipe left on those, they could be completely gone.
So a lot of times we ask ourselves, how do I recognize an opioid overdose is occurring? Well, a person experiencing an opioid overdose may exhibit the following signs and symptoms. They may have clammy, pale skin. They may have bluish lips or bluish tint of the lips or skin. They may have pinpoint pupils. They may have decreased heart rate or slower heart rate. They can have slower or irregular or stop breathing altogether. And then they may be they may be responsive, but they may have some sort of inability to have a clear mental status, so they have an altered mental status. Any one of these signs and symptoms, you need to call 911 immediately. And if you have the access to Narcan, we encourage you to use that. So what happens if you have a Narcan available? Again, we want you to stay calm, call 911 for an ambulance. Give Narcan if you have it. Currently right now, this is the Narcan that we give free to all of our substance users in our community. And we also give it to businesses and organizations that come to us and say, hey, look, is it okay if I get some Narcan to take back to my office just in case it ever occurs? Why? Because Narcan saves lives. I cannot say that enough. Narcan will save lives. One of our goals, one of the SUDS Coalition goals in regards to the settlement that was made, and number one is we want to save lives. We do not want anybody to die because of an opioid overdose. Because the second step is we want them to get into recovery and we want to get them into rehab. We cannot get them into rehab or recovery unless they're alive. So we are going to push this medication because we want to save lives, and it does save lives. This is the medication that we give. This is a 4 milligram vial. It's very simple to use. Here's my trainer here. It has a nozzle for when the mist comes out. It's an atomized mist of the medication. The medication is loaded inside this cartridge. I'm going to hold the cartridge. I'm going to place it up their nostril. And once I get it up their nostril, I'm going to push. Once I push, the atomized mist goes into their nostril, into their vascular area, and then we're going to wait anywhere between 2 to 5 minutes before we ever consider giving an additional dose. If the person's not responding to breathing, place them gently on their side in the recovery position, which would be the left side. Check the person's breathing and remain with them. Do not try to make the person vomit. Do not give them anything to eat or drink. If you try to make the patient vomit, now we're looking at an airway problem, and now it's going to be escalated even more. Keep any pill containers with you and have them take them to the hospital once the EMS arrives.
I'd like to add to that this Narcan, it saves lives, and it's not just for the drug user. It's also for the person surrounding the drug user. Like I said earlier, some of these drugs, if you just touch them, they can be deadly. So our sheriff people, our police officers, our EMTs, they have to have Narcan for themselves as well. So it's not just for the drug users.
Again, we want to make sure that if you go into an area where you think that opioids have been used or drugs have been used, we want you to make sure that you protect yourself by gloving up. If you come across any pills, drugs, or suspicious materials, make sure you protect yourself before making contact. Now, does it necessarily absorb through my skin if I was to touch something? No. But what do we do as soon as we touch something? We wipe our face, we wipe our nose, we wipe our eyes, we scratch something. And if that takes place, then it's going to be a very well positive situation where you are now affected with an opioid drug.
So this is Dead on Arrival. We show this in our high school. We've showed this at several other presentations that we have been to. It is a 22-minute video. We highly recommend that you guys watch it. We don't have time today to present this, but we did want to add the QR code and the link for anybody who is interested in watching it. It is a very powerful video. There are many testimonies of parents losing their children to fentanyl and the issue that we are seeing with fentanyl all over the world right now. So we really highly recommend that you guys watch this. It's called Dead on Arrival, and it is on YouTube. please take the time to do that. Vaping, we're going to go into a little bit of vaping now. So those who vape are 5 times more likely to have a heart attack. We want everybody to know that vaping leads to smoking. Sometimes there is marijuana in vapes now, and they are seen in Alexander County school systems. The marijuana vapes, the regular vapes, and we're going to play a little game here in just a second to see if you guys can pick out the vape. And then this raises blood pressure and it spikes your adrenaline. It's going to increase your heart rate, and the likelihood of having your heart attack has increased. So from January 2024 until present day, today, there have been 48 vaping offenses at Alexander Central High School. That is not counting middle schools or anything like that. We got this data yesterday from our Substance Use Disorder Coalition meeting that is open to the public, and we invite anybody to come to that. We would love input, especially if you know somebody who has used before. We would love their input on how to go about this. You know, we don't know what that looks like. They've been in those shoes, and they know how which best strategy we can do in order to help Alexander County in the best way that we can, and we will take every bit of advice that we can get. So we do invite you all to come to that if you're interested in that.
If you want to know what that looks like in regards to a picture, this is the vapes that were confiscated at Alexander Central High School.
Just this year.
Now, I don't necessarily know the actual amount of money one of these costs, but there's a lot of money that's in this box right here that was being spent, that's literally causing this much trouble in our school system. I can't speak enough or speak highly enough of Dr. Hefner, Dr. Curry, and Principal Lale for all the work that they have done outside the SUDS Coalition and our port, because they have really been striving and pushing this type of information to our students and trying to help them understand the dangers that vaping can cause.
And with the schools, we will be having a parent presentation on some substance use information on March 27th from 5:30 to 6:30. It's going to have some similar information and then some more information that targets parents of 6th to 12th graders more specifically. It's completely free and it's open to the public, so if you'd like some more information or you'd like to share that information, we would greatly, greatly appreciate that.
Okay. Yep, and so our campaign this entire time is one hit, that's it, be smart, don't start. So now we're going to play a little game. Next slide. So there is actually a vape up here on Shannon. Can anybody spot it? I know it's far away, but he does have a vape on him up here.
Go ahead, which one is it?
Oh, thank you. Sorry.
Not on me.
On him. And you would never have known it.
I've actually had it the whole time.
He's had it on him the whole time.
Go ahead.
Is it like one of the pins or something?
It is one
It
of
is
the
a
pins,
pin.
but which one?
The one to the first one?
This one?
No.
This one?
Yeah, that one.
This one right here? No, that's just a regular pin. This one right here.
That one is.
That
It
looks
actually
I was
writes.
looking right
Vaping
at it.
pin.
It writes as well.
I can screw, and there's the pin for me to write.
Aw.
They smoke it out the top. They push this button here to light the ignition. It charges the smoke, and there's where all the liquid goes. And this is a refillable pin, so they can use it anytime they want to.
And that's what's scary about these companies. They are targeting children more now than ever. It's not just a flavor thing anymore. It's a how can you hide it from your parents? How can you get away with this in the schools? So for the pictures, the top picture and the bottom picture, they're highlighters. So which one do you think are the vape from the first two pictures? You're saying the bottom? It's actually the top. Yep, it's actually the top, and you have to be really careful to the wording on those because the top actually says highlight, not highlighter. So for teachers, parents, anything like that, you really have to pay attention to the small details. For the second picture, we just showed a similar pin to the next two pictures, but top or bottom that you guys think is the vape? You're saying bottom?
I say bottom.
You're saying bottom? Preacher saying top. It's actually the top. The top. Good job. So for the next one, top or bottom? We just kind of showed you a similar one. It'll be the bottom. So these are so scary how similar they look to actual pins, and we really wanted to bring awareness to you guys, and you wouldn't even know it. So the next one, kids are actually able to put vapes in their strings of their hoodies. So they're getting really creative with this. So which one do you think, the top or the bottom? The top, right, yes. So people are actually in schools and they're hitting it from their hoodie strings, from their highlighters, from their pens, from anything that they can get a hold of. It used to be the Jewel, which looked like a USB, and now it's pens and highlighters and hoodies and anything you can think of just to target these kids.
That's what it used to look like.
That's what it used to look like. It was very, you were able to tell. Yep. Okay, so 1 pack of cigarettes is equal to 22 milligrams of nicotine. That's 20 cigarettes. 1 Juul pod is equal to 37 cigarettes, which is 41.3 milligrams of nicotine. 1 Flume float is going to be 400 milligrams of nicotine and equal to 363 cigarettes within that one little device. And then 1 Elf bar, which is the most dangerous, they actually pulled these off the shelves, rebranded, and got that put back on the shelves, is going to be 650 milligrams of nicotine and 590 cigarettes. So that is scary, and the amount of money that your kids are spending on these, and the fact that vape stores are selling these to children and targeting children in this way is super scary. So resources, really quick, we just wanted to go over a few of our resources that we have in-county, in-house, for those of you who do not know. The Alexander County Health Department does have a behavioral health therapist, a licensed clinical social worker. Her name is Jana Brown, and she is awesome. She is accepting appointments and is available Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. All you have to do is call our office, and we'll be really glad to set you up with that. And this is for mental health. Not necessarily substance use, but typically substance use does stem from underlying mental health issues. Shannon is able to transport. He's transported kids from the high school. He's helped a lot of individuals get the help that they need. If you'll go back one more slide, sorry. He's helped a lot of individuals get the help that they need from localized resources, and he is that middleman to connect them to therapies and doctor's appointments. There is that community paramedic side to him as well. So some of the services that she provides are comprehensive clinical assessments, outpatient therapy, and family therapy. So it is not just substance use, it is any kind of mental health issues, and she is there for anybody within our community and is gladly taking appointments, kids, women, men, anybody who needs that, and we want to share that and push that as much as we can within our community. And then our next resource is Shannon.
One of the main things that I am responsible for is once an overdose occurs Monday through Friday, 8 to 5 p.m., I go out to the actual scene where the overdose has occurred. Shortly after the patient has been resuscitated, I talk to them about what had occurred, what drug that they used, and then I immediately try to connect them with resources that are available in regards to recovery. If the number one step for anybody who's trying to seek recovery is to recognize that they have a problem. Unfortunately, not all the time do they recognize that they do have a problem. So again, we want to make sure that we leave them with the resources available to make sure that they do not hurt themselves or they die using the medications that they're attempting to use. So we leave behind a packet. Inside this packet is we have fentanyl test strips where they're able to test the medications that they use or the substances they use to make sure that there's no fentanyl in them. We also have xylazine test strips to make sure that there's no xylazine. And then of course we also, like I said earlier, we leave Narcan, and then we leave our information in regards to helping them get in contact with us. And then we have 2 peer supports now, thankfully. These are a young man, young woman who have had years and years of experience in regards to their own recovery. They have overcome their substance use, and now their goal in life is to reach out to the people and help them get into the recovery that they, in this new life that they now have. These are individuals go out every afternoon to connect with these substance users, talk to them about their life, talk to them about the situation. And I'll just be honest with you, I've never had, it's a beautiful thing to see if you've never seen it before, because for myself, I've never had an addiction problem, and so I can't tell that story. But the truth of the matter is everybody has a story, and every story matters. And so when we go out, they're the first person that comes, they're the first person that talks to them, and their story matches their story, and they are paying attention and they're listening. We've had it's been very, very receptive in regards to our outreach. Then we continue to connect with them from this point on. The reason why we are here today, I think, your pastor had contact with an individual several months ago, and he was out here in the lobby of the, right here, is that the gym over here? Yeah, right here before the gym. And he was sitting here, your pastor was talking to him, and he had just overdosed on methadone. I saw him today, Pastor, okay? And the good news is that he is going to rehab in Wilkesboro for a week to get completely cleaned out Friday, and then he will be going to Asheville for a year to get in recovery. And that is all because of, number one, your pastor calling 911, EMS coming out, and our SUDS team and our port team connecting with the individual and making sure that he gets into a program as fast as possible. And that is our goal. We want everybody to get in recovery. We do not want anybody to die. And so that's why we're trying to push Narcan, we're trying to push education, and we're trying to push, the biggest thing is that there's hope. There's hope. People can recover from addiction. It takes a long time, it takes a lot of work, but we're here every step of the way. From sometimes when they get put in jail. We've been in jail before where we've met with individuals and we've got them in programs thanks to our Sheriff Chad Pennell, Nita Price from pre-trial, Captain Mike Lunsford who's over the jail. All these individuals are working together. Our county commissioners who put forth this program and pushed this program and allowed us to have this program in our community that we're so thankful for us to have, because people are recognizing that there's hope. I was in Walmart just the other day. This is the first time this has ever happened, and I've never been more excited in my life. As I had someone come up to me and say, hey, I just read in the paper, or I just read online about this port program and what the SUDS Coalition is doing. And I'll tell you, I was in recovery for 16 years. I've overdosed 23 times. And I finally got clean from it. I want to do whatever I can to help you, help others get into recovery. This program is working, and it's all because of the leadership, our government leadership, the citizens of this community are recognizing that there's a problem, and we're here to help solve this problem. So now, do you have any questions that we can answer? Unknown substances was our inability to be able to fully, either the patient was not necessarily completely out of their overdose yet, and or they didn't want to tell us where they got the medication from or what it was. We just know that they overdosed, and so we were not able to fully identify what substance they overdosed on. That was in 2023, and I'll just tell you right now, that same pie chart this year, that same spot looks like fentanyl. It's 51%. So it's even bigger than that. It's 51% of the medications that are being used right now. That's a great question, and the only thing I can tell you is greed. Greed and money. They want to try to make money. They want to try to make money.
If they keep you young, then they can keep you as a lasting customer.
If they can get you at the age, I think it's, if they can track you at the age of 8, they've got you for the rest of their life, is what they say. That's the words that they use. And that's how little they think of humanity is all about. They want that money.
You mentioned recovery. Do you have
to stay in contact with. There's a young man currently right now, he is in his 6th month of recovery. This is a young man who has used his whole entire life from the age of 8 years old, where he was given medications or substances as a young child from his father so that he wouldn't cry and complain about being hungry. And so he started using at a young age. He moved from marijuana to marijuana to nerve pills to meth, and meth to fentanyl. And fentanyl was the one that trapped him, and he could never stop doing it. When I asked him why did he start doing it, because that's another question I asked in my intake interview, is what caused you to start using substances? He said, my son died in 2016, and he stopped for a minute, and tears started running down his eyes, and he said, and that's when I started using fentanyl for the first time. So whatever the reason that he started to use for coping mechanisms, which is one of the things Janet talks about here at the health department. But we follow through with that. We make sure that they stay in the program. We make sure that they are getting what they need. And I'll tell you what this young man did. Let's just tell you how strong he is. He came home because he had a 90-day pass. He came home to visit his family. When he came home, one of his family members started to use in front of him. He went, packed his bags, looked at his mom, kissed her on the forehead, said, I got to get out of here. I can't be here anymore. He packed his stuff up and he got in the car and went back to his rehab. And that is a huge sign of recovery, because it'd be very easy for him to say, well, I'm here, I might as well use. So yes, we do keep a track of where the recovery spot is. Ultimately, our goal in our recovery roadmap is that we want them to own. I'll just read it. Because I'll mess it up. We want them to recognize that there's a problem. If we educate them on the opportunities for help, we want to then connect them with the resources that are available. And then once they get into that rehab, we want to help them overcome the obstacles, however long it takes. If it's a year, if it's 2 years, we want to make sure that they overcome their obstacles. Once that they return from the rehab, we help them volunteer to help others make the same decisions they did in regards to their recovery. We encourage others to find help, and then they start to recover from their past, and then they yield to the opportunities where they start to become peer supports in our very own community and help others to overcome them. And we keep a track of that through our recovery roadmap. Great question. Any other questions?
I'd just like to make a question, basically. Based on the drug use and the crime rate, okay? And we're trying to do everything we can to help the people who are abusing drugs, okay? And this is absolutely fantastic program, people. It's just, good, very good. But my question is, the cost of incarceration versus the cost of rehabilitation. And with incarceration, we're putting them in there, and we're paying for them to be there and to stay there. And that not all times these people get any help with rehab, because they're in jail and they're gonna end up in prison. So we're keeping the problem from them, because we all know that if you want it, you can get it even in jail, you know? So, and this has been on my mind since y'all gave the presentation to the commissioner. So, what the cost for the rehab versus the cost of keeping someone incarcerated, wouldn't it be better if we used that money that we're incarcerating people for to rehab them and help them pay the cost for rehabbing? I bring this up because it's just really been on my mind. We've got people that you know and I know, not necessarily I know, you know, but that possibly can't pay for the rehab.
Yes. Yeah. And you're
Very, very expensive.
Yes, it is very, very expensive. And fortunately, we have programs such as Via Help and RHA and other programs like Integrated Care of Greater Hickory, Cognitive Connections, that are help kind of buffer that cost. But you're exactly right. It would cost us less if we started trying to figure out how we could get them directed into rehab. And we're thankful that right now, Chad Pennell, Anita Price, David Moose are all looking into what they're going to start in the near future called a drug court, which allows individuals who have substance use problems when they are arrested to be directed to that drug court with a very strategic plan in regards to getting them into a recovery program and getting them out of this habit. And I can't speak highly enough of Sheriff Pennell and Captain Lunsford and Anita Price, because the first time I ever went into the jail, I didn't have no idea. You know, I didn't know what kind of specifications they were looking at. And Anita kind of walked me through that whole process and said, look, we are strict, and we're strict for a purpose, because idle hands are the devil's playground. And we want to make sure that we put them in a program to where they are constantly learning, they're constantly in therapy, they actually have a work release where they actually can get a job in this program to get back in society, start accustoming themselves to the life outside of jail, and then bring them back in to where they're fully recovered and they're living a life that's a whole lot more safer and healthier for them. And that, you're exactly right. That costs actually less than what it was over a period of time for us to put them in that situation.
Right, because the whole thing behind that is the fact that once they get through rehab, and we pay that money for the rehab versus the incarceration, because most people don't know we got to pay their medical while they're in jail anyway. So if we do that, then they, like you say, they become a productive part of society, and therefore they're able to take care of themselves, because they'll fight that addiction until the day they're laid to rest.
You're exactly right. And that's what they are. They're in recovery. I spent today, because we're in the process of creating our own recovery groups to help out with the drug court in the near future and offer an opportunity for people to come and get into programs like AA, NA, Al-Anon. And I sat today in kind of just observation and looking at these programs, and I'm telling you, they do help. They are tremendous in regards to giving substance users a platform to talk about their struggles and work through the program. And so we're doing everything we can to make sure that they have that opportunity. Great question. Thank you, Commissioner.
Guys, and I'm going to say one more thing. I'm not talking too much. I know y'all have to be quiet. But I want y'all to know that this group, when we started this thing, and they worked on it for several months before it was actually activated. And all the money that comes from this drug program and what they're doing came from the money that we got from when the drug manufacturers were sued. And the money came back to the state of North Carolina and other states and distributed throughout the county to different counties. And we'll be receiving, for some reason I say $18 million over.
You said until 2008.
Yeah, 2038. All this money that we're getting, the county's getting, we're putting that back into this program to try to help and assist people who have drug problems. And it's working, and you know, there's nothing worse than somebody losing a kid or a parent because of an overdose from a drug that they didn't know they were taking, or that they knew were taking and take so much. And these things that they showed there, these vape needs to go, folks. Those things need to be outlawed in the United States.
I agree.
Big time, because they're killing people and destroying their lungs and everything else.
Dr. Heffer recently wrote a letter, and I think it was in the paper a few weeks back, in regards to a letter to our senator telling them that we need to figure out how to outlaw these vapes in our gas stations and grocery stores and stores, because it is a drug that eventually leads to it's very simple. This pen that I showed you, I can take the top of it off and I can actually put CBD or some sort of marijuana oil in this, and I can smoke it just as simple as I'm smoking it, a vape that I purchased in the store. And I'll just, you know, vape, marijuana, as I told you earlier in regards to this young man who's currently in recovery, he started with marijuana. And eventually it came to a point where marijuana didn't fix that problem, and so he moved, he escalated to a drug that actually killed him, I know for a fact, 4 times, because we resuscitated him 4 times. And so there's a danger. It's a huge danger. You're exactly right. They need to be outlawed.
Any other questions? We'll stay for a little bit after in case anybody has any personal questions or want to come up to us and talk. Just if you don't feel comfortable asking out loud, so we'll be here for a little bit. Thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate the opportunity to come and speak with you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you all for being here. Education helps. No one's half the battle. We need to go out there and do our best to put these words in action, right? Go in peace, but go